Welcome to K-1 Aggregator, the fastest, most comprehensive K-1 reader on the market today. This is a 100% web-based solution designed to aggregate K-1 packages and read all of the components necessary to produce accurate tax filings in seconds rather than hours under a traditional model. Let's take a look at the various components over the next few minutes. Taking a look at our screen, we can see rows which indicate individual tax filings. Inside each one of these rows is the holding portfolio for that entity, listing out various items like name, entity type, federal and state taxable income, along with project management tools that help you understand where you're at in your K-1 portfolio collection. For a given batch of K-1 packages, of which I have 4 here, a typical accounting firm may spend upwards of an hour simply extracting data before analysis can even begin. A human takes each of these data elements and places them into an Excel spreadsheet and then also places them into a tax return. We reduce that data entry burden into seconds rather than hours. I'll take my 4 K-1 packages, which would be representative of anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of work using an average of a half hour to an hour per K-1 package. Using our patented ML AI reader, we're going to boil this time down into a little under 2 minutes. What the system is doing during this time is it's uploading all of those K-1 packages. It is reading the entirety of the face page. It is reading white paper statement detail for all line items 1 through 20 AH, including those most complex boxes like line 11 and line 13, where there may be additional values that ultimately need to be digested by the tax practitioner. It is also reading the entirety of Schedule K-3, which has greatly expanded line 16, what used to be 16 elements, into 20 pages, 13 schedules, and 1,800 additional data elements, and now even includes reading the K-3 footnotes. It will also read all 42 state K-1s to the extent that they have taxable income allocated to the partner. It is even attempting to read some 926 disclosures to the extent that they are present. And it has done all of that work in a minute it took me to describe to you what it actually does. And from here forward, we move on to direct validation and review employing a 3-step process: a first touch, a second touch, and a third touch. The first touch is generally responsible for going into the details of the K-1, pulling up the K-1 side by side, and reviewing all of the information that is present from the machine learning model extraction. They will also be performing other tax work that is supplemental to the K-1 process itself, such as dealing with tax basis. They'll work through federal and state data in detail, and they'll be performing standard tax accounting functions on that data, $18,287 here, for example, with its underlying detail, $39 on line 2, $19,074 with its underlying detail. And then the fun stuff, like 11 and 13, whereby you go into the statements, you see 20 additional items of detail, and so too can you go into our analyzer product. $34,114 is the total of my white paper statement detail, and 34114 is the total of my reader output. All of the underlying detail is present and accounted for. The accountant may undertake certain transforms of that data using reclassifications to move information from one line to the other. They may analyze estimates versus actual. They may do a deep analysis of state allocable information. They'll roll through K-3 data, reviewing the PDF and reviewing our extracted information using our UI. And finally, review the foreign disclosure forms, which could be of interest. Once that is done, a second-level touch will come in and review the entire portfolio, which has been automatically aggregated like common work papers do. If this was a partnership return, this would be the master Schedule K values that we would ultimately report out to our partners. From here, as accountants, we love Excel, right? This will also produce Excel schedules in multiple fashions, pulling out the data any way that I need to see it. This is a standard Excel export for federal data that many accounting firms utilize to track and manage all of the underlying K-1 detail. This has now been done in seconds versus the hour or 2 per K-1 for our staff to manually key in all of this information onto the spreadsheet and into the tax return. We'll deal with that information for federal purposes. We'll have aggregate information for Schedule K-3 purposes, which ultimately go on to produce the K-2 in a partnership. We'll immediately have the ability to export all of that data via Excel. We'll take a look at state taxable income in totality, understanding where our risk areas are, and making quick and easy decisions along with its related Excel exports. And we'll finally take a look at any of the foreign transfers. And based on the thresholds that each of these transfers require, we can make instant determinations without having to compile any Excel spreadsheets to analyze and aggregate this info. It's already been done for you. We simply come in here and make determinations based on the information that we see. Finally, reports and exports provide all of this information out via Excel for integrations into other software, or however the accountant would normally like to use. We've got federal summaries. We've got state summaries. We've got detailed reports like tax basis. We've got comparison reports that allow deeper analysis into different components. And at the end of the day, all of this information is directly injectable into your tax returns. You simply select your client, and you can send the data via API to Thomson Reuters or CCH Access products. There's nothing to configure on the user side other than adding key identifying return information. When transferred, the information appears in the tax return exactly as if a staff had keyed it in themselves. That is the power of our K-1 aggregator solution, taking what could be up to an hour's worth of data entry and turning it into seconds per K-1, bringing the review time down into simply managing and analyzing top-level data versus detailed data entry review, providing all the Excel reports and exports that an accountant may need to complete their filing, and pushing all the data into a tax return, eliminating yet another step of data entry and data duplication, all in one little package.